The stars twinkled faintly in the night sky, as Earth's orbit became the stage for an event that would change everything. For centuries, humanity had gazed upward, wondering if they were alone in the universe. No one expected the answer to come so suddenly or so ominously. On a quiet Tuesday evening, astronomers around the world detected something strange. A massive fleet of ships appearing at the edge of the solar system. These weren't just any ships. Their sleek designs and glowing engines marked them as far more advanced than anything humans had ever built. News of the discovery spread quickly, reaching the desk of David Carter, a seasoned diplomat with the United Nations Space Council. David was no stranger to high-pressure situations, but this was different. This wasn't a trade dispute or a territorial squabble, was first contact with an alien civilization. Sitting in his dimly lit office, he stared at the live feed from space telescopes showing the alien fleet. Each ship was enormous, dwarfing even the largest human vessels. His phone buzzed incessantly, with calls from panicked leaders across the globe. Taking a deep breath, he picked it up. At the same time, Rachel Monroe, an astrophysicist known for her work on deep space anomalies, was already analyzing data streaming in from observatories worldwide. Her eyes narrowed as she studied the readings. The energy signatures emitted by the ships didn't match anything she'd seen before. "This isn't natural," she muttered under her breath. Whatever these beings were, they weren't here to observe or explore. They had purpose and it likely involved Earth. Within hours, emergency meetings were convened. World leaders gathered virtually, while scientists scrambled to make sense of what they were seeing. David found himself seated beside Rachel in a hastily arranged briefing room at the UN headquarters. Screens displayed images of the alien fleet alongside maps of their trajectory toward Earth. Everyone spoke at once, voices rising in panic and confusion. Finally, someone shouted over the chaos, "What do they want?" That question lingered unanswered until communication came not through words, but through actions. A signal broadcasted directly into every satellite and communication network on the planet. It wasn't a request for dialogue or an offer of friendship. Instead, it was a declaration. Asterisk, "You are now part of the Voran Dominion." Asterisk, the message sent shockwaves through humanity. The Voran, as they called themselves, claimed Earth as their territory. Their tone was cold and final, leaving no room for negotiation. David leaned back in his chair, feeling the weight of responsibility settle heavily on his shoulders. He glanced at Rachel, who looked equally stunned. "Do you think they're bluffing?" he asked quietly. "I don't know," Rachel replied, shaking her head, "but we can't assume they won't follow through." As the hours passed, the situation grew more dire. Reports indicated the alien ships were moving closer, their speed increasing. Military forces around the world went on high alert, though everyone knew humanity's weapons might be useless against such advanced technology. Fear gripped the population. Social media exploded with theories, prayers, and desperate pleas for answers. Some people barricaded themselves indoors, convinced the end was near. Others took to the streets, demanding action from their governments. David spent the rest of the night preparing for what came next. He reviewed files on past attempts at extraterrestrial communication, consulted with experts, and drafted potential responses. Rachel, meanwhile, pored over every scrap of data about the Voran ships, searching for any weakness they could exploit. Despite their efforts, both felt the crushing reality of the situation. Humanity was outmatched, outnumbered, and unprepared by morning. The alien fleet had reached the outer edges of Earth's defenses. Tensions reached a breaking point as the world waited to see what the Voran would do next. David stood before a group of anxious diplomats, his expression calm but resolute. "We have two choices," he said firmly. "We surrender our freedom or we stand together and fight for it." His words echoed in the silence, planting a seed of hope amidst the fear. Little did anyone know, the battle for humanity's future was only beginning. The news of the Vorin Dominion's arrival spread like wildfire, igniting a storm of emotions across the globe. People watched in stunned silence as images of the alien fleet filled their screens. Some cried, others prayed, and many argued over what should be done. In cities around the world, protests erupted. Crowds gathered in streets and squares, holding signs that read everything from "We will fight" to "Surrender before it's too late." The division was clear. Some believed humanity should resist at all costs, while others thought submission was the only way to survive. Inside the United Nations Space Council headquarters, David Carter struggled to keep order during another chaotic meeting. World leaders shouted over one another, each pushing their own agenda. The US, Russia, and China wanted to take charge of Earth's defense, while smaller nations demanded equal say in any decision. David raised his voice above the noise, his tone firm but calm. "If we don't stand united, we're finished before this even starts," he said, looking around the room. His words quieted the group for a moment, but the tension remained thick. Rachel Monroe sat quietly in a corner of the room, her mind racing. She had spent the night analyzing the Vorin ship's movements and energy signatures, searching for clues about their intentions. What she found troubled her. The ships weren't just moving closer, they were positioning themselves strategically, almost as if they were preparing to block any escape routes. Rachel leaned over to David and whispered, "They're not here to negotiate. They're here to conquer." Her words sent a chill through him. David knew she was right, but convincing the rest of the world wouldn't be easy. Outside, the protests grew louder. In New York City, Sarah Bennett, a fighter pilot stationed on Mars, watched the chaos unfold on her tablet. She clenched her fists as she read reports of people urging surrender. "Not on my watch," she muttered under her breath. Back on Mars, she trained her squadron relentlessly, knowing they might soon face the fight of their lives. But morale among the pilots was low. Their ships were outdated compared to the sleek, powerful vessels of the Vorin. Still, Sarah refused to give up hope. She reminded her team of humanity's greatest strength, adaptability. "We've faced impossible odds before," she told them during a briefing, "and we've always found a way to win." Meanwhile, tensions between nations reached a boiling point. Classified intelligence revealed that the US, Russia, and China had secretly developed experimental weapons designed to counteract alien technology. When representatives from smaller countries learned of this, they accused the major powers of hoarding resources. Arguments erupted, threatening to tear the fragile coalition apart. David stepped in again, urging everyone to focus on the bigger picture. "If we turn on each other, the Vorin win without firing a shot," he warned. As the days passed, the Vorin fleet drew closer, now visible even to amateur telescopes. Panic gripped the public, and conspiracy theories ran rampant. Some claimed the aliens were gods come to judge humanity. Others insisted it was all a hoax orchestrated by governments. Amid the confusion, David and Rachel worked tirelessly to prepare for first contact. They knew communication would be key if they could find a way to reason with the Vorin. Perhaps war could be avoided. Finally, after endless debates and sleepless nights, the UN agreed to send a delegation to meet with the Vorin. David volunteered to lead the mission, knowing it might cost him his life. Rachel joined him, determined to uncover the truth behind the mysterious energy readings she'd detected near Saturn. As they boarded a spacecraft bound for the International Space Station, the designated meeting point, David glanced back at Earth one last time. The planet looked so small and fragile against the vastness of space. "We're risking everything," Rachel said softly. Breaking the silence, David nodded, his jaw tight. "Sometimes, you have to risk everything to protect what matters most." Neither of them knew what awaited them aboard the ISS or whether humanity would rise to meet the challenge ahead. But one thing was certain, the line had been drawn, and there was no turning back. The International Space Station floated silently in orbit, its metallic exterior glinting faintly in the sunlight. Inside, David Carter and Rachel Monroe waited anxiously for the arrival of the Voran emissary. The air was tense, heavy with the weight of what was about to happen. For the first time in history, humanity would speak face to face with an alien species. But as the minutes ticked by, neither David nor Rachel felt any sense of excitement, only dread. A low hum filled the station as a small shuttle detached from one of the massive Voran ships and approached the ISS. Through the windows, they could see its sleek design, glowing faintly with an otherworldly light. It docked smoothly, and moments later, the hatch opened. Out stepped Commander Zelk, a towering figure clad in shimmering armor that seemed to shift colors with every movement. His elongated limbs and sharp features made him look both elegant and terrifying. Behind him stood two silent guards, their weapons ready, but not raised. David stepped forward, his heart pounding. "Welcome," he said, his voice steady, despite the fear gnawing at him. He gestured toward Rachel. "This is Dr. Rachel Monroe, our lead scientist. We're here to discuss." "I am aware of your purpose," Zelk interrupted, his voice deep and resonant, translated into English through a device on his chest. "You wish to negotiate terms of surrender?" Rachel flinched at the word surrender. David forced himself to remain calm. "We seek understanding," he replied carefully. "Your arrival has caused great concern among our people. We want to ensure peace between us." Zelk tilted his head slightly, studying them with piercing eyes. "Peace," he repeated, as if the concept were foreign to him. "Your kind is primitive, scattered across this planet without unity or purpose. You lack the strength to resist us. Why waste time negotiating when submission is inevitable?" Rachel clenched her fists, but kept her tone even. "You underestimate us," she said. "Humanity has faced countless challenges throughout history, and we've always found ways to overcome them. We adapt, we innovate, and we survive." Expression didn't change, but there was a flicker of something in his gaze, curiosity, perhaps, or annoyance. "Adaptation will not save you now," he said coldly. "Your technology is inferior. Your societies are divided. Resistance is futile." David took a step closer, trying to bridge the gap between them. "Commander Zelk, I understand your position, but consider this. Humanity has something no other species may possess: resilience. If you push us too far, we won't back down. We'll fight, even if it means sacrificing everything." For a moment, Zelk was silent. Then he let out a sound that might have been laughter or disdain. "Sacrifice changes nothing," he said. "Your defiance only delays the inevitable. Submit now, and we may allow some of you to serve under the Dominion. Resist, and you will be erased." Rachel exchanged a glance with David. They had hoped for diplomacy, but Zelk's words left no room for compromise. Still, David refused to give up. "If you destroy us, you'll lose more than just a planet," he said. "You'll lose the chance to learn from a species capable of incredible growth. Is that truly what the Voran Dominion wants?" Zelk stared at him for a long moment before turning away. "Consider my offer carefully," he said. "You have until our fleet reaches Earth's atmosphere to decide." With that, he signaled to his guards, and they returned to their shuttle. Moments later, the craft detached from the ISS and disappeared into the void of space. As soon as Zelk was gone, Rachel exhaled sharply. "That didn't go well," she muttered, running a hand through her hair. "No kidding," David replied, sinking into a nearby chair. "But we knew it wouldn't be easy." Rachel frowned, staring out the window at the distant alien fleet. "He acted like we're nothing more than insects to be crushed, like we don't matter." "Maybe that's how they see us," David said quietly. "But we can't let them treat us that way. If we do, we've already lost." Back on Earth, news of the failed negotiations spread quickly. Protests intensified, and calls for action grew louder. Sarah Bennett watched the reports from Mars, her jaw tightening. "They think we're weak," she said to her squadron. "Let's prove them wrong." Meanwhile, Rachel began reviewing all the data she'd collected about the Vorin ships, searching for anything that could give humanity an edge. David, meanwhile, prepared to address the world once again, knowing that unity was their only hope. The line had been drawn, and the clock was ticking. Humanity's fate hung in the balance, and the battle ahead would test them in ways they couldn't yet imagine. The world held its breath as David Carter stepped onto the stage in New York City. Cameras from every corner of the globe focused on him, capturing the moment that would define humanity's response to the Vorin threat. Behind him, a massive screen displayed images of Earth, a fragile blue sphere floating in the vastness of space. David took a deep breath, his eyes scanning the crowd gathered below. People of all ages, races and backgrounds had come together, united by fear, hope, and determination. "Today," he began, his voice steady but filled with emotion, "we stand at a crossroads. The Vorin Dominion has declared us weak, divided, and unworthy of rule. They see us as nothing more than insects to be crushed underfoot. But I say to them and to the universe, humanity will not bow." The crowd erupted into cheers, their voices echoing through the streets. David raised a hand, urging them to quiet down so he could continue. "For centuries, we have fought each other over borders, beliefs, and resources. But now, we face an enemy that threatens everything we hold dear. If we are to survive, we must put aside our differences and fight as one." Rachel Monroe watched the speech from her spacecraft en route to Saturn, her heart swelling with pride. She knew David's words carried weight, but she also knew they wouldn't mean anything unless humanity followed through. Activating the anomaly near Saturn was only the first step. Success depended on everyone doing their part, back on Earth. Sarah Bennett stood before her squadron, replaying David's speech on a tablet. Her pilots listened intently, their faces a mix of fear and resolve. When the recording ended, Sarah spoke up. "That's what we're fighting for," she said, her voice firm. "Not just ourselves, but everyone back home. The Vorin think they can walk all over us. Let's show them why they're wrong." General Alan Hayes wasted no time turning David's call for unity into action. He worked tirelessly to coordinate efforts between nations, ensuring that even the smallest countries contributed to the coalition's defense strategy. Experimental weapons developed by the US, Russia, and China were finally shared with allies, bolstering humanity's chances against the Vorin fleet. Though tensions remained high, the sense of purpose brought people together like never before. Meanwhile, Rachel and her team approached Saturn, their spacecraft trembling slightly as it entered the planet's gravitational pull. On the monitor, the anomaly loomed ahead, a swirling mass of energy that seemed alive, pulsing rhythmically like a heartbeat. Rachel's hands hovered over the controls, double-checking every calculation. One mistake could mean disaster not just for her crew, but for all of humanity. "This is it," she said to her team. "Once we activate the anomaly, there's no turning back." Her co-pilot, a young engineer named Alex, nodded nervously. "Let's make it count." As Rachel initiated the sequence, alarms blared throughout the ship. The anomaly responded violently, unleashing a surge of energy that rippled outward. For a moment, it felt like the entire spacecraft might be torn apart. Then, just as suddenly as it began, the turbulence subsided. Sensors confirmed the anomaly was active, creating a massive gravitational disruption that spread toward the Vorin fleet. Far away. Aboard the ISS, David received confirmation of Rachel's success. The Vorin ships slowed unexpectedly, their navigation systems thrown into chaos. It wasn't a permanent solution, but it bought humanity precious time. David relayed the news to General Hayes, who immediately ordered preparations for a counterattack. Sarah and her squadron suited up, ready to launch. Their mission was clear: strike hard and fast, while the Vorin were disoriented. As she climbed into her cockpit, Sarah whispered a silent prayer. This was it, the moment humanity drew its line in the stars. Across the planet, people watched and waited, their hearts pounding with anticipation. The battle ahead would test them in ways they couldn't imagine. But one thing was certain: humanity had chosen to fight, and as long as they stood together, there was still hope. Rachel Monroe sat hunched over her computer in the dimly lit lab aboard the International Space Station. Her fingers flew across the keyboard as lines of data scrolled past on the screen. She had spent hours analyzing the energy signatures emitted by the Vorin fleet, searching for anything unusual. At first, it seemed like just another piece of the puzzle, confirming their technological superiority. But then, she noticed something strange. Buried deep within the readings was an anomaly near Saturn. It wasn't part of the Vorin ships themselves, but rather something they appeared to be using or, perhaps, hiding. The energy pattern didn't match anything Rachel had ever seen before. It pulsed rhythmically, almost like a heartbeat, and seemed connected to some kind of distortion in space-time. Could it be a weapon, a gateway, or something else entirely? Her mind raced with possibilities. If this anomaly held answers or even weaknesses, it could change everything. But time was running out. The Vorin fleet was steadily advancing toward Earth, and humanity's options were dwindling fast. Rachel knew she couldn't keep this discovery to herself. She sent an encrypted message to David Carter, who was back on Earth preparing for his next address to the global coalition. Meanwhile, tensions among world leaders continued to rise. Classified intelligence revealed that the US, Russia, and China had not only developed experimental weapons but also begun deploying them secretly around key orbital positions. Smaller nations accused these powers of acting unilaterally and putting everyone at greater risk. Arguments erupted during emergency meetings, with some countries threatening to pull out of the coalition altogether. David stood in front of a room full of angry diplomats, trying to maintain order. "We don't have time for infighting," he said firmly. "If we can't work together, the Vorin win without firing a shot." His words fell flat as accusations flew back and forth. Finally, one representative from India spoke up. "What about the anomaly near Saturn?" she asked. "Dr. Monroe mentioned it earlier. Are we looking into that?" David nodded, grateful for the shift in focus. "Yes, Rachel is analyzing it now. She believes it might hold the key to understanding the Vorin's technology or finding a way to counter it." Back on Mars, Sarah Bennett pushed her squadron harder than ever. Training exercises became more intense, simulating battles against superior forces. Despite their outdated equipment, Sarah drilled her team on every possible tactic, emphasizing speed and unpredictability. "They're bigger and stronger," she told them during a briefing. "But we know our territory better than they do. Use that to your advantage." As days passed, Rachel's research began yielding results. The anomaly near Saturn wasn't just a random phenomenon, seemed to be artificial, possibly a remnant of ancient alien engineering repurposed by the Vorin. More importantly, it interacted with gravitational fields in ways that could disrupt navigation systems. If humanity could somehow harness or manipulate this effect, they might be able to throw the Vorin fleet off balance. Excited by her findings, Rachel shared them with David and the coalition leadership. "This could give us an edge," she explained during a video call. "If we activate the anomaly, it could create chaos within their ranks enough to buy us time." The idea sparked hope, but it came with risks. Activating the anomaly required sending a team close to Saturn, dangerously near the heart of the Vorin fleet. Many argued it was too dangerous, while others saw it as their only chance. In the end, the decision fell to General Alan Hayes, who reluctantly approved the mission. Preparations began immediately. A small crew, led by Rachel herself, would travel to Saturn aboard a modified probe equipped with experimental tech designed to trigger the anomaly. As Rachel packed her gear, David visited her quarters to say goodbye. "You don't have to do this," he said quietly. "Yes, I do," Rachel replied, meeting his gaze. "If this works, it could save billions of lives. That's worth any risk." David nodded, though worry lingered in his eyes. "Just come back in one piece." "I'll try," she said with a faint smile, as Rachel boarded the spacecraft bound for Saturn. She felt a mix of fear and determination. Humanity's survival depended on her success, and failure wasn't an option. Far away, Sarah and her squadron prepared for battle, knowing their fight was just beginning. The line had been drawn, and the stakes had never been higher.
Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the cargo freighter Lucky Strike as it approached the asteroid field near Titan's Rest. The ship looked old and battered, but Jake knew that was camouflage. Captain Nina Park had modified her vessel with hidden weapons and sensor jammers that would fool most Imperial patrols. "Coming up on the coordinates now," Captain Park announced. "I'm picking up the signal beacon. Looks like your friends are already here." Through the view screen, Jake could see Titan's Rest, a massive asteroid that had been hollowed out and converted into a mining station decades ago. What the Zephyrian Empire didn't know was that the abandoned facility had become a secret meeting place for resistance groups from across this sector. "Elena Vasquez is here?" Jake asked. "Her ship landed an hour ago, along with 2 others we don't recognize. Your little revolution is growing, Ambassador." Jake wasn't an ambassador anymore. Admiral Cross had officially transferred him to military intelligence 3 days ago, but old habits died hard, and he still thought like a diplomat when building alliances. The docking bay inside Titan's Rest was larger than it appeared from outside. Jake saw Elena's ship Defiance alongside 2 sleek vessels he didn't recognize. As he walked down the Lucky Strike's ramp, a woman with steel-gray hair and scars on her face approached him. "Jake Morrison, you look different than I expected." "Elena Vasquez, I presume. You look exactly like I expected." Elena had been the colonial governor of Meridian when the Zephyrian Empire annexed her world 5 years ago. The official story was that she died in the fighting. The truth was that she had escaped with a group of loyal colonists and had been building a resistance network ever since. "Come on," Elena said. "There are people you need to meet." They walked through corridors carved from solid rock. The asteroid's interior had been expanded over the years into a maze of workshops, living quarters, and storage bays. Jake saw humans, working alongside beings from a dozen different species, all unified by their hatred of imperial rule. The main meeting room had been carved from a natural cave and lit by floating glow spheres. Around a rough stone table sat the most unusual collection of beings Jake had ever seen. Elena made introductions. "Jake Morrison, meet our allies. Captain Zara Kothan you already know from the communications." The Drakmari warrior stood and clasped Jake's hand in the traditional human greeting. Her grip was strong enough to crush bones, but she was careful not to hurt him. "Human Morrison, you have shown wisdom in seeking alliance with warriors." "Battle leader Kothan, how many ships can your clans contribute?" 47 combat vessels, disguised as cargo haulers and mining ships. Each crew has trained in secret for 20 years. We are ready for war." Elena gestured to a small blue-skinned being with large eyes. "This is Trademaster Kef of the Kepler Mining Consortium. His people have been enslaved by the Empire for 30 years. Kef spoke in a high, musical voice. "Ambassador Morrison, my people control the asteroid mining operations in 7 systems. We know where the Empire gets its raw materials, and we know how to cut off those supplies." The third new face belonged to a tall, pale woman with intricate tattoos covering her arms. Commander Rachel Stone, formerly of the Vega Colonial Defense Force. "When the Empire destroyed our worlds, some of us managed to escape with our ships. How? Many survivors? Jake asked. Enough. We've been hiding in dead systems, raiding Imperial supply convoys. Small stuff until now. Elena spread a holographic star map across the table. Red markers showed Imperial fleet positions, while blue dots marked resistance bases and hidden assets. Here's what we have, Elena began. Jake's brought us intelligence from Earth about new human weapon systems. Zara's people have 47 hidden warships. Kef controls the mining operations that feed the Imperial war machine. Rachel has experienced combat crews and detailed knowledge of Imperial patrol routes. Jake studied the map carefully. What about other species? The Arcturians, the Centauri Federation? Officially neutral, Rachel said with disgust. Privately, they're terrified. The Empire has kept peace by making everyone afraid to fight back. Captain Cothan's scales shifted to a darker red. Fear is a weapon that cuts both ways. When the galaxy sees the mighty Empire can be hurt, that fear will turn to hope. That's the plan, Jake said. But we need a target that will get everyone's attention. Something that proves the Empire isn't invincible. Elena touched the map, and it zoomed in on a system near the galactic core, Arcturus Prime. The Empire's main shipyard in this region. They build half their fleet there. That's heavily defended, Rachel pointed out. Which is why they won't expect an attack, Jake replied. How long would it take to coordinate a strike? Kef chittered softly, the Kepler equivalent of laughter. Trademaster, you forget that my people maintain the life support systems at Arcturus Prime. If those systems were to malfunction during an attack, you could sabotage the station from inside. Better, I can get your people inside before the attack begins. Captain Cothan leaned forward. How many Imperial ships defend the shipyard? 12 battlecruisers in normal rotation, Rachel answered. But if they call for reinforcements, they won't have time, Jake said. Not if we do this right. Elena, how quickly can you get word to other resistance cells? Give me 24 hours, but Jake, even with all our ships combined, we're still outnumbered 10-1. Jake smiled. It was the same cold expression that had worried Governor Walsh back on New Geneva. Elena, you're thinking like rebels trying to hide from the Empire. I want you to start thinking like an army that's going to destroy it. 3 days later, Jake stood in the communications center aboard Elena's ship Defiance as it jumped toward the Arcturus system. Around them, a fleet of 40 hidden vessels moved through hyperspace, human ships disguised as traders, Drakmari cargo haulers with hidden weapons, and stolen Imperial vessels flying under false transponder codes. Incoming transmission from Earth, the communications officer announced. Admiral Cross's image appeared on the main screen. Jake, I have good news and bad news. The good news is that Captain Rodriguez and the Vengeance Battle Group are moving to support your operation. The bad news is that Imperial forces hit the colony at New Geneva this morning. Jake felt ice in his stomach. Casualties? Governor Walsh evacuated most of the population before the attack, but the colony is gone. Admiral Crexith made it personal by broadcasting your name specifically. He's hunting you. Let him come, Jake said quietly. Sir, are the new weapon systems ready? More than ready. Rodriguez's crew has been training with the neural interfaces for 6 months. Commander Allen's fighter squadron can coordinate like a single organism. And Jake? They're angry about New Geneva. Good. Anger will keep them sharp. Captain Cothan appeared on screen beside Admiral Cross. Human Morrison, my scout ships report Imperial fleet movements. They are massing at Rigel as you predicted. How many ships? 57 battlecruisers under Admiral Crexith's direct command. They move toward human space in 2 days. Jake nodded. Perfect. When we hit Arcturus Prime, Crexith will have to choose between protecting his shipyards or attacking Earth. Either way, we divide his forces. Elena joined the conversation. Jake, we've received confirmations from resistance cells in 12 systems. When we strike Arcturus, they'll hit Imperial supply depots and communication relays simultaneously. Trademaster Kef reports his people are in position, the communications officer added. Life support systems at Arcturus Prime will fail on your signal. Jake looked around at the faces on the screens. Human, Drakmari, and others, all united by their determination to end Imperial tyranny. 6 months ago, he had been a diplomat who believed in peaceful solutions. Now he was coordinating the largest rebellion in galactic history. All units, this is Morrison. We jump into the Arcturus system in 1 hour. Remember, this isn't just about revenge for Harmony Point or New Geneva. Today we show the galaxy that the Empire can be beaten. Today we give every oppressed species hope. Captain Kothan's image smiled, showing sharp teeth. Today we take the first step toward freedom. As the fleet prepared for battle, Jake received a private message from an unexpected source. The encryption was Zephyrian military grade, but the message was in clear English. Human Morrison. I am Sub-Commander Thylek of the Imperial 4th Fleet. My clutch siblings died at Harmony Point serving as neutral observers. Admiral Krexith's orders violated every code of honor our people claim to follow. When you attack Arcturus Prime, my ship will develop convenient engine problems and be unable to respond quickly. Make your strike count. Make the Admiral pay for his crimes. Jake deleted the message and smiled. The Empire was starting to crack from within. Through the view screen, he could see the other ships in their hidden fleet. Human vessels with their sleek lines and hidden weapons. Drakmari ships that looked like cargo haulers but moved like predators. Former Imperial vessels now serving the cause of freedom. In 1 hour, they would strike the heart of Zephyrian military. Power. The Empire would learn that their greatest mistake wasn't underestimating human technology or determination. Their greatest mistake was giving humanity a reason to unite the galaxy against them. Captain Sam Rodriguez felt the neural interface come online as his ship Vengeance dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Arcturus system. Information flowed directly into his mind. Fleet positions, weapon status, tactical options, processed by the AI system Justice faster than any biological brain could handle. All systems green, Captain, reported Lieutenant Chris Murphy from the weapons console. Neural link is stable. I can feel the other ships in the network. Rodriguez smiled. The feeling was hard to describe to someone who hadn't experienced it. Through the interface, he could sense Commander Beth Allen's fighter squadron like extensions of his own body. Every pilot, every ship, connected in a web of shared consciousness that let them fight as one organism. Justice, tactical overview. The AI's voice spoke directly into his mind. Arcturus Prime shipyard is operating at normal capacity. 12 Imperial battle cruisers in defensive positions. Station shields are active. No indication they detect our approach. Through the neural link, Rodriguez felt the entire human battle group. 3 strike cruisers like Vengeance, each one loaded with quantum torpedoes and adaptive plasma cannons. 12 Raptor-class fighters under Commander Allen's control, their pilots linked so closely they could execute maneuvers that looked impossible to outside observers. Morrison's resistance fleet is in position, Justice reported. Trademaster Kef confirms sabotage systems are ready. Life support failure will begin on your mark. Rodriguez opened a channel to the fleet. All units, this is Vengeance. We are weapons free in 30 seconds. Remember, we're not just fighting for humanity today. We're fighting for every species that suffered under Imperial rule. Commander Allen's voice came through the link, calm and focused. Raptor Squadron standing by. We're going to show these scalebacks what human pilots can do. The Arcturus Prime shipyard was a massive construction floating in space. Its multiple rings and docking bays capable of building 6 battle cruisers simultaneously. Around it, the Imperial Defense Fleet hung in textbook formation, powerful but predictable. Justice, mark targets. Marked. Recommend opening strike on the command ship Emperor's Will. Eliminating their coordination will create maximum confusion. Rodriguez. felt the agreement flow through the neural network. Every human in the battle group understood the plan instantly, without need for lengthy communications. All units, execute. Vengeance and her sister ships phased directly into the heart of the Imperial formation. The human vessels moved with impossible coordination, each one knowing exactly where the others would be. Quantum torpedoes launched, in perfect sequence, overwhelming the shields of the Imperial command ship. Emperor's will exploded in a brilliant flash of light. What in the seven hells was that? Admiral Krexth's voice roared across all frequencies from his flagship Dominion, stationed near Rigel. How did human ships appear inside our defensive perimeter? Commander Allen's fighters swept through the gap created by the larger ships. The Raptors moved like a school of fish, each pilot anticipating the other's moves through the neural link. They targeted the Imperial ship's sensor arrays and communication systems with surgical precision. Target the weapon ports, Allen commanded, through the link. Blind them, then cripple them. Imperial ships began firing back, but their plasma bolts passed through empty space. The human vessels seemed to know where every shot would be before it was fired, dancing between the beams with impossible grace. On Arcturus Prime, Trademaster Kef's sabotage program activated. Life support systems throughout the massive station began failing. Emergency alarms blared as sections lost atmosphere, forcing Imperial personnel to evacuate critical areas. Station shields are fluctuating, Justice reported. Recommend switching to Torpedo Spread Pattern 7. Rodriguez felt the tactical data flow through the network. Every human ship adjusted its position automatically. The next wave of quantum torpedoes hit the shipyard's main reactor complex. Direct hit, station power dropping to 40%. But the Imperial fleet was beginning to adapt. Their remaining ships moved to protect the shipyard, creating overlapping fields of fire that even the human vessels couldn't avoid completely. Vengeance is taking damage to port shield generators, Lieutenant Murphy reported. Elena's resistance fleet is moving in, Justice announced. 47 ships dropping out of hyperspace on the opposite side of the station. The Imperial defenders found themselves caught between two forces. Elena Vasquez commanded from her ship Defiance, while Captain Kothan led the Drakmari vessels in traditional wedge formation. Morrison to all resistance ships, Jake's voice came over the communications. Hit them hard and fast. Show the galaxy that the Empire can bleed. The Drakmari ships shed their cargo hauler disguises, revealing sleek predatory vessels armed with weapons that had been hidden for 30 years. They moved with the fluid grace of born warriors, their crews singing battle songs that chilled. Imperial blood. Kepler mining ships are targeting the shipyard's construction bays, Justice reported. They know exactly where to hit for maximum damage. The space around Arcturus Prime became a deadly dance of fire and metal. Human ships used their impossible coordination to strike precisely where the enemy was weakest. Drakmari vessels fought with savage fury that reminded the galaxy why the Empire had worked so hard to pacify them. The former Imperial ships of the Vega survivors used their knowledge of Imperial tactics to anticipate every defensive move. Admiral Krexth is demanding status reports, the communications officer announced. He's threatening to execute any commander who retreats. Rodriguez felt grim satisfaction through the neural link. Fear was spreading through the Imperial ranks. Ships that had never faced real opposition were learning what it meant to fight an enemy that refused to be intimidated. Justice, what's our status on the primary target? Arcturus Prime main reactor is critical. Recommend all ships clear blast radius in 90 seconds. All units, this is Vengeance. Primary objective achieved. Begin withdrawal to rally point. 7. But as the human ships prepared to disengage, a new threat appeared. Admiral Krexth's personal flagship Absolute Power dropped out of hyperspace with a dozen escort vessels. So, Krexth's voice filled the communication channels. The human diplomat has become a warrior. Morrison, I know you can hear me. You have destroyed Imperial property and killed Imperial citizens. For this, your entire species will pay. Jake's voice responded from the Resistance fleet. Admiral, you're the one who started this war when you murdered neutrals at Harmony Point. Today you learn the price of that decision. You think these primitive tactics can defeat the might of the Empire? I will show you true power. Absolute power was 3 times the size of any other ship in the system. Its weapons could destroy planets, and its shields had never been breached in a century of warfare. As it moved toward the human battle group, smaller vessels scattered like leaves before a storm. Justice. Analysis. Enemy flagship is beyond our conventional weapons capabilities. Recommend coordinated quantum torpedo strike with full battle group support. Rodriguez felt the neural network pulse with shared determination. Through the link, he sensed Commander Allen's fighters moving into position for a suicide run that might crack the flagship's shields. Negative, Raptor Squadron. Pull back. I have another idea. Rodriguez to Resistance Fleet. I need you to keep those escort ships busy. Elena, can your people handle that? Copy, Vengeance. Drakmari vessels are already engaging. Give us 5 minutes. Rodriguez turned to his tactical officer. Murphy, prepare for emergency hyperspace jump. I want us to appear directly above that flagship's main reactor. Sir, that's impossible. The gravitational interference from their ship will tear us apart. Not if Justice calculates the jump perfectly, and not if we only stay for 10 seconds. Through the neural link, Rodriguez felt his crew's understanding and acceptance. They all knew this was likely a one-way trip, but they also knew it was the only way to prove that the Empire's greatest ship could be destroyed. Justice, can you do it? Probability of successful materialization, 43%. Probability of survival after torpedo deployment, 12%. Recommend proceeding with mission. Rodriguez looked around his bridge at the crew that had become his extended family through the neural interface. Anyone who wants to object, speak now. Lieutenant Murphy checked his weapons console. Quantum torpedoes armed and ready, sir. The navigation officer looked up from her controls. Jump coordinates locked in. We're ready when you are, Captain. All hands brace for emergency hyperspace jump. Elena, Jake, it's been an honor serving with you. Tell Earth that Vengeance kept faith. The ship vanished from normal space and reappeared 10 meters above Absolute Power's hull. For a moment that lasted forever. The massive Imperial flagship filled their view screen like a metal mountain. Rodriguez felt the neural link expand to include every human in the battle group. Through their shared consciousness, he experienced Commander Allen's fierce pride, Elena's grim satisfaction, and Jake Morrison's cold determination. Fire everything. 12 quantum torpedoes detonated simultaneously against Absolute Power's hull. The explosion lit up space like a new star being born. When the light faded, Admiral Krexth's flagship was breaking apart, its reactor core exposed to vacuum.